Last year, as part of my master's degree in Mindfulness Studies, I carried out a research project where I surveyed 800 meditators who carried out a compassion-based meditation program every day for 30 days. And the results were pretty surprising. Here's what I found. So firstly, when I was studying mindfulness and compassion, I noticed something strange. I noticed that in the contemplative traditions, so in things like Buddhism and Jainism and Hinduism, compassion was always described as something that was felt for all sentient beings. However, in the academic world, all of the definitions and the measures of compassion always excluded any non-human animals. So it always talked about compassion for people or for humanity or for a particular person. This struck me as a huge disconnect. Like, surely compassion is for all sentient beings. Why is it only for people? And actually, when you look around, people do seem to have an innate compassion for animals. Sometimes these academic journals would reference people like the Dalai Lama or other figures within contemplative traditions, but then when they studied it themselves, then they would measure compassion towards people only. So then I set out to explore three particular things. Firstly, can compassion meditation actually lead to a change in our felt sense of compassion? Secondly, does this compassion extend towards animals as well as people? And then thirdly, does this have real-world impact? So does a change in a felt sense of compassion towards animals lead to a reduction in the consumption of those animals for food? And really, what I was testing was, can meditation lead to this dissolving of boundaries between self and other and between people and animals? And something that pointed to something much bigger, something that wisdom traditions call non-duality. The realization that we are not separate beings, but one living whole. Back when I started the research project, I was working with Medito. If you don't know Medito, it's a 100% free, non-profit meditation app. Really great. There's a link in the description if you haven't already downloaded that. But by working with them, it meant that I was able to reach a huge number of people. We had 800 people sign up to take part in the survey from all around the world. And this is how it worked. First, they completed a survey to find out about their felt sense of compassion, their attitudes towards animals, and about their current meditation practice. Then they would do a 30-day meditation challenge where every single day for 30 days, they would take part in these compassion-based mindfulness meditation practices. And then finally, they would do the second survey, which was a repeat of the first one. So I would have the before and after data to see if this 30-day meditation practice actually had an impact on people's sense of compassion. And so before even the 30-day meditation practice began, that first survey gave me some interesting data to look at. And the first thing that I noticed was that the length of time that the participant had been a meditator seemed to correlate with compassion. But we can take a look at that here. So you can see that people who had been meditating for only 0 to 2 years had a lower compassion score than those meditating for 3 to 5 years, and again the same for 5+ years. And that was the same for both the compassion for people score, and you can see here the same kind of trend for compassion for animals. However, when taking a deeper look at the data, it seemed that it might not have been as straightforward as that, because there was a striking correlation between age and the compassion score. You can see here there's a very clear increase in compassion across ages, and that is the same for compassion for people and compassion for animals. So it's possible that when it comes to length of time as a meditator, that is more influenced by age, because the average age of people in the 0 to 2 years category is lower than 3 to 5, and that is lower than 5+. So moving on to the really interesting results, and that's the change in compassion following the 30-day meditation program. So first, compassion did increase for people and for animals. Following on from the 30-day compassion meditation program, people reported having higher levels of empathy and more of a willingness to act kindly. The increase in compassion for animals, though, did increase less than compassion for people, which was interesting. And as you might expect, diet didn't change at all. There was a small increase in consideration of a vegan or a vegetarian diet following on from that increase in compassion for animals, but there was no actual shift in diet, which I think is to be expected because obviously compassion isn't the only thing that determines whether we eat animal products or not. There's society and culture and family influences. So I think it would take a lot more than 30 days of meditation practice to make somebody go vegan or vegetarian. But then the really interesting result, which I wasn't even really looking to measure. So within the measure for compassion for people and the measure for compassion for animals, there was a particular question that was asked. So for compassion for people, there was the question of what is your felt sense of connection with the whole of humanity? And for compassion for animals, there was the question of how connected do you feel to the whole of nature? And after the 30-day meditation challenge, both of these scores increased significantly. So this compassion practice didn't only increase a feeling of kindness towards people and towards animals, it deepened their sense of belonging to humanity and to the natural world. So that's fascinating because it shows that meditation can not only increase compassion and increase the desire to alleviate the suffering of others, but it can also dissolve boundaries. Instead of me versus you, or humans versus animals, people can start to feel part of one interconnected whole. So a simple 30-day compassion practice might ripple out in unexpected ways, from how we treat each other, to how we treat animals, and how we treat the earth itself. Of course, no study is perfect. I didn't have a control group. Not everyone completed the whole 30-day challenge. And surveys always carry some bias. People often give answers that they expect the researcher wants. So we can't take it all as 100% proof of anything. But it seems quite clear that something shifted after the 30-day practice. So this goes to show that mindfulness and compassion practice aren't just about relaxation or escaping stress. Maybe they're about transformation, about softening the boundaries between ourselves and others until we realize that we are part of something bigger. That's what non-duality points to, that there's no boundary between me and you, between humans and animals, between us and the earth. And if hundreds of people can feel that shift in just 30 days, imagine if millions of us tried that.